Okay, we're continuing now with Prevent and Reverse Atrial Fibrillation and CHF, book by me, Pete Rogers. We're going through mitochondrial inhibitors. We just ended session 8 with titanium dioxide. This is session 9. Okay, so we're on page 48 if anybody's following along in the book. Next is things that are, frank poisons. There were some drug addicts in Northern California trying to make opioids. They made MPTP by accident, and it causes Parkinson's disease by inhibiting mitochondria. They're not using it in experimental animals to induce Parkinson's disease. Trichloroethylene, that's what you get from the dry cleaner, so I don't ever go to dry cleaner anymore. Some cleaning chemicals also contain that. That also causes Parkinson's disease. It's a mitochondrial inhibitor. Dry cleaning, you want to stay away from all this stuff. These are, in a sense, VOCs, volatile organic compounds, something that changes rapidly from a liquid to a solid and gives off VOCs in the process. So all these things are bad. Glues and paints, some of these cleaning chemicals also give off VOCs. Flame retardants are bad, like the blue medical gowns. If you're just doing something simple like a suture removal, you don't need the blue surgical gown. It's got flame retardants in it because you're going to potentially be using cautery. So if you're not using cautery, then you don't need it. Okay, what else? Cyanide, like, what do you think cyano means in cyanocobalamin? Okay, I don't think you should be taking cyanocobalamin. I know the so-called other nutrition people will tell you, oh, it's just a little bit, it's not a big deal. Well, you know what? It adds up, okay? And then the same people a lot of times are telling you should be taking flax. Well, flax also has got cyanide-like glycosides in it. It's going to potentially add up. Don't eat the pits on cherries or apples, okay? They also contain some cyanide. Almonds contain a little bit of cyanide, especially the bitter almonds, okay? I would recommend avoiding all that stuff. Stay away from that preservative they spray, especially on avocados, but on some other fruits too. That A-peels, Ida-peel, Organopeel, that's got some cyanide-like chemicals in it. It's allowed to have some contaminants, toluene, hexane, some lead. It can have acetonitrile, which is like methyl cyanide. I would not take a risk with that. You can look up the chem data sheets for yourself. What else? Let's see, stimulants here. Let me go through some of these stimulants also. Nicotine, caffeine, bad idea to be messing around with that stuff. Caffeine in particular, it's not only a vasoconstrictor to your brain, decreasing cerebral blood flow as much as 25% in some areas. It's also an excitotoxin, increasing glutamate transmission across the synapse, which puts more strain on your mitochondria. You don't want to be doing that. Caffeine is totally overrated in coffee and all that stuff. Those are just billion-dollar commercial foods, so they get all this hype that they don't really deserve from commercial advertising type of, so-called science. It's a science with the S having the dollar sign in it. Other things that are harmful: alcohol, methamphetamine, cocaine, ecstasy, marijuana, THC, CBD oil, spice. You want to stay away from all that crap. You want to avoid things like welding where you're inhaling toxic chemicals. If you have to, ventilate the place, do whatever protective measures you can. Mountain mining, particulate material, not good for you. Traumatic brain injury inhibits pyruvate dehydrogenase. So if you end up having a traumatic brain injury, you need to take way more time off than they say. SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. A classic one is Prozac, fluoxetine. The fluo comes from fluorides, okay? But, there's other ones too: Lexapro, Trazodone, sertraline. All these things, mitochondrial inhibitors. SNRIs, tramadol, mitochondrial inhibitor. Tricyclic antidepressants like amitriptyline, mitochondrial inhibitor. So you can see how many people are on multiple of these things. Each one of these is adding up to compromise mitochondrial function. And remember, you tip the mitochondria too far, and you can end up with a Warburg effect, increased risk of cancer. Statins reduce coenzyme Q activity associated with increased risk of diabetes. That's what I meant. They'd better have some magnificent great effect on your cholesterol to make it overwhelm the negative side of increasing your risk of diabetes. Not to mention the other potential complications: fatigue, muscle pain, weakness, etc. I don't like it. Oral diabetes medicines. Metformin is a mitochondrial inhibitor. I've had doctors, who think they know what they're doing. Senior internal medicine subspecialty attendings tell me, oh, I heard metformin's good for longevity. I'm like, yeah, right. You're going to increase your lifespan by inhibiting your mitochondria? I don't think so. And like I tell you, I don't care what some research paper says. If a research paper says that inhibiting your mitochondria is good for your health, you know what I say? That research paper almost certainly, I'll bet 99.999% likely, is funded by some corporation to sell a drug, okay? And those papers are always bogus. I mean, they're not made to provide useful information. They're made to sell a drug. Okay, PPAR alpha agonists for treatment of dyslipidemia and high triglycerides, things like Avandia, rosiglitazone, gemfibrozole, clofibrate, fenofibrate, and other derivatives thereof, okay? Okay, a lot of antihypertensives, beta blockers, propranolol, metoprolol, atenolol, carvedilol, timolol, hydrochlorothiazide, minoxidil for hair loss. And I've also heard really bad things about that phentermine. I would stay away from all that stuff. The public doesn't get known all the side effects. It's dangerous stuff. I'd stay away from it. And for guys, women don't really care that much about your hair, They care, she cares a lot more about your bank account than your bench press. She don't care that much about your hair. They really don't. I one time thought, oh, that's a big thing. No, it's not. Okay, ACE inhibitors like captopril, lisinopril, hydralazine, vasodilator, antihypertensive, diuretics, furosemide, Lasix, hydrochlorothiazide, and they also do other bad things, cause wasting of your potassium and your magnesium. Antibiotics like tetracycline, doxycycline, azithromycin. Okay, so we'll call it there for today. I hope you find this helpful. We got more mitochondrial inhibitors next time we start going on this. So you can see there's a lot of them. And by avoiding all of them, you'll be able to increase your energy level.